Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
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 Let's begin. I would like to welcome everyone. Since morning the school started. Now we are students from BF First Year History Department. Mr.
Ma'am, we are not able to hear you. Could you please be a bit more audible?
Once again. Now a student from BA First Year History Department, Mr. P. Vijay Shankar Anand, is ready to have more discuss on the given topic of today. Vijay Shankar Anand?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible to you, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes. Can I share?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Good morning, all. Am I audible to everyone? And is my screen visible?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
Vijay.
So welcome all. This is Vijay Shankar Anand, doing history, B.Ed and Kasturi College. So today I have taken the topic called History of Teachers from Ancient Era to Modern Era. So history of teachers, ancient era from like what, from the time of ancient period to the modern era. Modern era is like what, up to the time period of now. So which are the teachers who have influenced the whole of our country? So I'm not going to entirely go into all the criteria of like what all the teachers who have influenced our country. Instead, I'm going to touch very few from the ancient and not much from medieval and more from the modern. So with that note, we'll move into the history of teachings from ancient era to modern era. So without teachers, yes, it is true, without teachers, life would have no class at all. So there is no class without a teacher. So with that particular note, let me move into the thing. So first, history is actually divided into ancient, medieval, and modern. What is ancient, what is medieval, and what is modern is based on the dates, like from the very beginning, to the ancient in this like up to 8th century. Up to 8th century is that what we call it as an ancient period. From 8th century to the 18th century is that what we call it as a medieval period. So from the 18th century to the current time is that what we call it as a modern era. So ancient, medieval, and modern. This is how history divides. So in this history, in this topic, I'm going to divide the teachers into ancient, medieval, and modern. So first we go for the ancient. The first teacher who inspired me in the ancient era is that the Chanakya. So why Chanakya? Why we have to take to know about the Chanakya? Because he is the greatest teacher of Indian history, and who was the what? Who was the teacher of the greatest ruler of India? That was the Mauryan the kingdom. During the time of the Mauryan kingdom, he was the teacher who formed this kind of a kingdom called Mauryan kingdom, the first empire of Indian history. Okay. So what was his teachings? So he conveys a message that teaching is a mother profession giving birth to all other professions. Yes, we know that without a teacher, a doctor cannot be formed, a lawyer cannot be formed, or any other kinds of a profession cannot be formed without a teacher. So who was this Chanakya? Chanakya was a professor of economics and political science at the ancient university of Takshashila. We know there were two great universities existed in our country. That was, one was Takshashila and another was in Nalanda. So I'll come to that Nalanda later. This was the first existed university in our country, which is actually existed in the part of Pakistan. Now modern Pakistan is that area when we were in our entire land. So Aganda Bharat, when we had our Aganda Bharat, during that time we had this Takshashilam with us. There he was the professor. What was the teaching of this person? So he conveys that as student. He conveys to the students that all the teachers, all the students must shun 8 activities. Shun 8 activities should control these types of 8 activities. All the pleasures that tempt sense, tastes that gratify the tongue, anger, greed, personal beautification, too much of entertainment, excessive sleeping, and extreme indulging in living. So these are the 8 things which he conveys that to what? To shun. Next. So when we move into the next, another one greatest teacher, I would like to tell him as one of the greatest teacher of the ancient period. He actually, what was the message taught by him? The message taught by him is in the form of a book. Not religiously I'm speaking, not as a religious thing. I'm not taking this point. Actually, what is to be conveyed to the people who are going to take up their life, who are going to live for the next 100 years or 60 years or 70 years or 80 years of time, what they should follow. So that is the message conveyed by Valmiki in his book. You know what was the book written by him, the sacred scripture, which is Ramayanam. In that, he penned down certain things in the Ramayanam. Actually, what are the things which he penned down in the Ramayanam is like loving and respecting your family, the importance of siblings, relationship, differentiating between right and wrong, and the most important lesson of the book is the victory of good over the evil. So that was the main message conveyed by him. And at the same time, if you take, there are 2 scriptures are there. One is Ramayanam and Mahabharatam. If you take Ramayanam, you can take Ramayanam as one of the most important thing, like it's a book conveys the people like how to live. And if you take Mahabharatam, it's a book conveys the people how not to live. So these are the 2 messages which were scripted down by the 2 different group of people. So now it is about the Ramayana. So next, there's another person who's actually very important. Why this person is being taken into the point of a teacher is because he was a great Indian mathematician and an astronomer. He was the person who taught the world that the entire universe is what is revolving around. So that was the main message conveyed by him. And the picture which you see at the back is that university which I spoke earlier. It's a Nalanda University, which is in the part of the Bihar. These are the ruins of Nalanda University, what you see. It is said that the Aryabhatta might have been the head of the Nalanda University. Some might have heard about the Nalanda University. So being a student in Nalanda University will bring too much of knowledge to you. But being a head of Nalanda University is something beyond imagination. So he was an extraordinary teacher and a great scholar with an immense knowledge. Okay, so these are the 3 people which I wanted to cover from the ancient period, because I cannot bring all the ancient teachers because there are too much of people are there. So I have picked certain 1 or 2 from the ancient. So when I move to the medieval period, so I'm entirely going to skip the medieval period, is because medieval was completely concentrated on leadership. What kind of leadership? Leadership for ruling the country. And it entirely focused on the religion, because as it was completely of Islamic invasions, and entirely it was rule of Islamic people, and it was education was completely focused on religion. Even it is, you take Islamic way or the way of Hindu religion thing, both were competing each other, and they were focused only on the religion. and nothing was focused on the development of the child. So I entirely skipped this medieval period because it did not focus on the development of the child. Instead, it only focused on the leadership for ruling the country. So I skipped this portion and I moved to the modern period. So we have lot of people to discuss in the modern period. First, and the primemost thing person which I have to discuss is about the Jyotira Phule and Savitribai Phule. Why Jyotira Phule? Because he is from Maharashtra. Actually, this is the person who is from Maharashtra who worked as a social reformer right from the age of 13. Right from the age of 13, he worked as a social reformer. He did not wanted the untouchability to exist in the parts of Maharashtra, where in Maharashtra it was severe during those times. During the time of 18th and 19th century, it was very severely practiced. This untouchability was severely practiced, and at the same time, women were entirely discriminated. So during that time, he wanted to bring the women to the education. He wanted women to be educated. So how did he bring the woman to the educational part? So for that, after he marries at the age of 13, 14, he married and he taught his wife. He made his wife first literate, and along with his wife, he then started teaching the other group of people. So this is what the picture talks about. Jyotira Phule was one of the greatest social reformer of Maharashtra. It was Jyotira who taught Savitribai to learn and read and write. So first he taught his wife, then along with his wife, he taught other women. So first, to do some change, you have to change. So this is what he did, and he made the entire change in the scenario. And later he started teaching, and she started learning, and she started delivering the education to the other women categories. Okay. Next, the very most important personality as a teacher. Maybe you may feel like these people all these people are considered as teachers. Actually, I've taken these people as not as a teachers, the message conveyed for the development of the education. So that is why I consider this as a teaching. So Swami Vivekananda, why this person's point is to be taken is because he conveys at one point, it is the teacher should not teach anything in the class. Instead, what is to be done is what? Something is to be awakened. Awakened in the sense like what you have to light something in the minds of the children. It is not like you go teach something to the child. Instead, you light something in the minds of the children. So in Vedanta says that within a man is all knowledge. So it requires only an awakening, and that much is the work of a teacher. So it is said that the teacher and student are complementary to each other. Like sometimes some students may ignite something on the teacher, or the teacher sometimes may ignite something on the student. So this is how it should happen, and the both should develop. This was the idea conveyed by Swami Vivekananda. Next. So if you go for the next person, it is Mahatma Gandhi ji. You know, he's our national leader. We know him as a national leader, but at the same time, we should know him as in another perspective. What he told in the schools is that he not only wanted the children to learn the education through the books, he also wanted the children to learn something beyond the education, like handcrafting. So this is which now most of the schools are starting with. Actually, most of the schools are trying to bring out that like artwork, craft work, all these kinds of things are being developed in most of the schools. Is behind the knowledge of this one. That means by education, he means an all-round drawing of the best in child and a man in body and mind and spirit. It's not only like what education develop a body, it should develop the mind and the spirit of an intellect. So this is the main message conveyed by Mahatma Gandhi. So the next person, he is from actually Gujarat. Next person, we move into that eastern part of India, that is Tagore. When you come into the point of Tagore, every child in this era will like the Tagore's way of education. Why Tagore's way of education would be liked by the children is because is because the way he approached the children, the way he wanted the education to be. So education is the highest purpose of man's life, which can be achieved through nature contact. So what he did is what? He brought the children out of the school. He brought the children out of the school. He did not wanted the children to be inside the class, and he wanted the children to move out of the class and learn from the nature. So the main objective of the education is the freedom of the mind, that the child is to be free. So when the child is to be free, if you allow the child to be free, automatically the child will develop his or her knowledge. So which can be only achieved through the path of freedom. So child is to be made free to learn anything. So then only the child will learn. So through his institution, that's called Santiniketan, his institutions, through that institutions, he achieved that. And he made the children to move towards him to learn in a very free way. That's the idea of the spirit of Tagore's idea. So next, we know we cannot skip this person because he's the person who is the one, our first vice president and our second president of our country, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, and we still celebrate our Teachers' Day whenever his birthday is celebrated. So he is one of the greatest inspiration. Why he is considered as the greatest inspiration is because his achievements and contributions still remains as a teacher throughout his life. See, he continued. So that true teachers are those who help us think of ourselves. This is what he created. So that's why he is considered as one of the greatest leader, and we still celebrate his birthday as our Teachers' Day celebration. So this person, the next we move to the national teacher. He is considered as the national teacher, that is Vinoba Bhave, as a national teacher. Why is he considered as a national leader, a national teacher? Is because he is the person who is a spiritual disciple of Mahatma Gandhiji. Spiritual disciple of Mahatma Gandhiji, and after Mahatma Gandhiji, his ideas were taken to all the parts of our country. So that's the one best thing he did to our country, and at the same time, one of the main person behind the movement of Bhudan movement. Bhudan in the sense like asking the people, like after independence, India became independent, there were more lands which were occupied in the hands of certain group of people. So those lands were being confiscated. Confiscated in the sense is not kind of a confiscation, but let's still it started acquiring. He started asking the people to give away certain lands to the people who are in needy, so that the people could do something on their land. So this is Vinayakar Nahari Bhave, who is all known as Vinoba Bhave or Acharya or national teacher. We call him in different name. So one of the person behind the Bhudan movement, who brought the lands to all the needy people, and who have given the land to a certain group of people, and which is actually made some benefits to the people. So next we move to a very important person. The next five people whom we are going to see is what the very important people. So Vimala Kaur, who she is a lady who actually worked as a teacher, but later, after her retirement, what she did is what the very important thing. Okay, so we now see what she did after her retirement. She, along with her husband, in the parts of Delhi, started distributing the biscuits to the needy people who were there in that region. Needy people means the people who live in the slums. So to those people, they were distributing the biscuits. That time, there is a lady who have like approached them and asked them, instead of giving them biscuits or giving food items, why don't you teach them and learn, make them a learned person? So with that inspiration, for the next consecutive years, she started teaching them. And this is how she created the scenario that in the slums, along with her husband, she continuously goes to that particular area in the slums of Delhi, and she started teaching the slum children who could not go to the schools. So this is Vimala Kaur. So next we move into these people are modern people. Very, very recently they are living with us. So that's why these people are very important. And Babar Ali, at the age of 16, who become the world's youngest headmaster. How did he become a world's youngest headmaster? You may have a question that in this age, how it is possible that how did he become an youngest headmaster? How did he become an youngest headmaster? Is because he created his own school. How did he created his own school? Is like what in his locality, the people who could not go to schools, who could not afford certain things, for them he started his own school along with his friends. He was at the age of 13, 14, 15. He started this particular idea and he started developing on that. As he started developing on that, he started developing a school and many children started coming towards them. And he, along with his friends, started doing teaching to the youngest children. Youngest children, you could see the pictures. This is the picture which he started teaching to the certain children, and he started claiming to be the what? The youngest headmaster of this particular locality in that region. Okay. Next, we may think that is this the person who is youngest, but to our shock, we have another girl, Bharati Kumari. She is too youngest. How she is too youngest is because she is only 12. She is only 12 from a region called Kusumbara. Kusumbara is that region in the regions of Bihar, where in Bihar, it was a region. There are certain slums are there in Bihar where the people, even the government, never steps into those types of slums. Slums in the sense it's a remote region. In those types of remote region, they never enter into those regions. Why they don't enter into the region? Because it is entirely into the control of Maoist. Even if the government is trying to construct some buildings or do some schoolings there, they will destroy it. So she thought that what she is learning from certain areas, and she traveled for around 12 kilometers a day, and she taught what was learned by her to those children in that particular region. So this is how she became the young headmistress of that particular region. So at the age of 12, at the age of 16 like Babar Ali, and at the age of 12 like Bharati Kumari, they are doing wonders to teach something to the children, what they know. So what they know is being taken. So this is another personality who is actually Anand Kumar, who is even his career has been taken into a film in the name of Super 30. So he is Anand Kumar from the same kind of what small thing. What is the work which done by this Anand Kumar is like he did not wanted the bright students to fall towards him, and the people who are rich, for them he did not wanted to educate. He wanted to educate the people who wanted to achieve to pass the JEE or IIT, to move into IIT. So for them he selected certain group of children right from 2008, and still he is doing it up to 2020. Up to 2020 he is doing it. Yearly he selects 30 children and he trains them to move into JEE and move into like what IIT. So yearly 30 children. So around now with 12 years of time, he has reached around 500 children. Out of 500 children, he had made 420 children to move into JEE and the NIT, IIT. So this is the last personality which I have, and the very most important personality which I have next is this person. Without touching this person, I cannot conclude the work of a teacher, because he is always known to what praise his teachers, because once he has told in his book, like at the age of 5, how did a teacher turn to me, and at the age of his college times, how a teacher from that particular college turned him, and later at another age, how did a teacher changed his life. So always he is a person who gets what inspired by the teachers. Always he tries to what motivates the teachers. So he himself, a teacher, wanted to what give much and much to the people who was approaching and asking about who is a teacher. So with all these group of learned people, we got a message, like even when we are going to become a teacher. So when we become a teacher, we will be in this way, like maybe we will be going and joining for a purpose of a salary, but still beyond the salary, there should be some kind of kind of an motivation towards the children. We should approach the children in a way we should. So with that particular point, with the help of our teachers, so I would like to conclude that we should also have to remain as a good teacher in our future. So to the world, you may just be a teacher, but to your students, you are a star. So when we turn into a teacher, we would always remain a star to our students. And thank you for the opportunity.
Most often, our most challenging opponent in this ourselves. A brilliant presentation, Mr. P. Vijay Shankaran. I hope all the students have completed the shared point. Any questions, students? Any doubt? Okay. This time to call another speaker from B.Ed first year, Department of English, Mr. Kiran Jacobs George, to come and share the one topic of the day.
Okay, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
So may I start my presentation? Am I audible once more?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay. So good morning to everybody. Glory be to the Triune God. Wherever you are, be safe and stay at home. So first of all, I would like to thank our college and its staffs for having me, for giving me this opportunity. Special thanks to Vinod sir, Gurendi sir, and Umarani ma'am for the timely support and dedication. It gives me immense pleasure and happiness to conduct this session because I am one among the students and I am representing the students itself and teaching our own students itself. So thank you for this opportunity. The topic that I chose was how does education develop a human's thinking and personality? How does education develop a human's thinking and personality? This was the original topic that was given. But I felt a bit awkward, and so I took the liberty to reconstruct this topic from a question to a statement. A statement in the sense as developing one's thinking and personality through education. I made it into a statement. So, but the meaning is just the same. So in this PPT, we will deal with personality development and thought process related to education. Like through education, how is one's personality developed? And through education, how one's thoughts are also developed. Actually, both are interrelated in one way or the other. So let's see how education develops one's personality and thinking. I hope my presentation won't bore you. I shall try to keep it short and sweet. So as an introduction, I would like to say that education plays a vital role in one's thinking and personality to a great extent. We all know that. It is solely because of education that our thoughts and personalities have developed to a large extent where one has his or her own individual outlooks of life. We all have our own perspectives on each and everything in this planet. It is all because of education. Here, we shall have a look on how education develops one's thinking and personality. Now we will look on the importance of education in personality development and thought process. Personality development is one among the most common terms heard by far. We have all heard about personality development. Most of us have also attended a lot of personality development sessions also. So this is a known topic for all of us. It does not mean to enrich a person's outlook. Most of us have this misconcept where personality development is all about enriching a person's outlook. No, that's wrong. It is not about achieving good grades either. Personality development is not just one thing, but a cluster of many things. It is solely the knowledge of what you are. It includes all the traits you have, in the sense, the characteristics, your own characteristics, your strengths, your weaknesses. It depends on that. Knowing them, in the sense, knowing all those traits, those characteristics, is not just sufficient, but you have to accept them. If you are not ready to accept them, you need to change them. So personality development is all about self-confidence and positivity. Most of us have this issue where we lack self-confidence, where we are not able to face a gathering and speak to them for a while. And most of us have this kind of a negativity in our minds where we spread negative vibes all over, which totally depends and gives an impact on our personality. So if a person has to say that your personality is really good, we should reflect our inborn confidence. Not only inborn, it can also be developed, our self-confidence and positivity. Only then another person will be able to know that our personality has grown, our personality is good, and will he or she be able to appreciate us. Now, self-confidence is the first and foremost trait of personality development. So the first thing that we need to have is self-confidence. Someone who desires a dashing personality should have self-confidence in him and must toss out, in the sense, take away all the negativity away from his mind. He needs to have an optimistic approach, a positive approach towards life, and that is only possible through education, where education helps in understanding what life is all about and how life should be dealt with. These are all learned and we'll be able to learn it through education. So personality development means to be courteous, to be kind, to be polite, to be respectful. A person who is always admired for his personality is always courteous towards others. He will be able and he will be ready to help others and will be very polite and humble, in the sense down to earth, with everyone he meets in his life. And last but not the least, personality is enhanced by the attire that suits the occasion. According to the occasion, you have to bring out your personality. For example, obviously going to a board meeting, okay, suppose you're going to a board meeting wearing shorts, okay, wearing your trousers, is totally not acceptable, right? For board meeting, we have a formal dress, right? A shirt and a pant and a coat and a suit. That is all what is board meeting uniform, or the formal dress what is to be used in a board meeting. That is what is known to us. But when you wear this shorts or a trousers, or which is not acceptable for occasion, that is totally not acceptable. On the other hand, for girls, going to their workplace while wearing so many jewelry pieces is not a trait of good personality. This is just an example of what a good personality is, or what is not a good personality. So, if you want to succeed in life, you must have a good personality. Wherever you go, it is not the words that speak, but your personality that speaks. Personality development is often conjugated with a good education. It plays a vital role in developing a good personality. By inculcating education, one is free to think and ponder on the taught lessons. By doing so, one contemplates on what was educated and tries to relate it into his or her own lives. Through education, one is left with an open mind to reflect on what was educated to him or her. Now we'll see the role of education in personality development and thought process in detail. I have mentioned these 8 subtopics on the slide just to have a glance, but we'll have to go through it in detail within a jiffy. We'll see to it. So the first subtopic is education gives knowledge. So as we all know, education is very important, right? So if you sit in a group of people without any knowledge, just imagine, you will be considered not less than a fool, right? So lack of knowledge can cut down the pleasing effect of politeness and a good dressing sense. Knowledge will let you indulge in a good discussion with your fellow mates and will leave your unforgettable imprint in their minds, like giving an impact on them. It is just like a magical booster to your personality. Now, education increases your intellectual growth as well. Education can keep your mind directed to the right direction. It can give you a motive in your life, a goal. So you will get to know what you are doing and and you will see its consequences as well. Because every step you take in your life, you will know why you are doing so. So this will reflect in your personality and enhance it in your thinking also. The next topic is education teaches ethics. Now, to be successful in one's life, you need to face many defeats. You will have to accept those defeats also. Now, education will in one way teach you to use fair means on no matter what happens in your life, right? For example, a cheater, okay, is always a cheater, and this reflects his own personality in the world. The badge or the seal, okay, of a cheater is more than enough to completely ruin your personality. That was just a bad example. That was now not the way of how you should be. So education will teach you to be fair, to be honest to everyone. In every situation you face in your life, you will need to know, or you will need to avoid cheating and dishonesty and those kind of negative vibes. So education will give you many lessons so that you can differentiate between good and bad, between what is right and what is wrong. And when the time comes, when a certain occasion comes, you will know what the truthful tract is and you will opt for that. We must always remember one thing, that lies are temporary and the truth is forever. So whatever personality you make by incorrect means, it will be temporary. Only fair means will offer you a good and permanent personality which will last forever. We're coming to the third subtopic. Education boosts confidence. This will gradually reflect on your personality and thinking. So confidence is a must for personality development. It is a must-have. Education is the only booster which can help you in passing the hurdle of low confidence. Most of the people are usually very shy. Even among us, we know our own status where we are shy or we are bold enough to face a lot of people and speak to them. Generally, most of us are shy. And so through education, it gives us a chance to develop our own self-confidences. So the education system gives them a chance to sit with other people. This can also be said to be an inclusive approach of teaching, where you're being in the midst of a lot of people of different types. So that is what I meant by inclusive approach. Now, in fact, with a lot of people, what happens, you will be able to talk with them, you will be able to be friends with them, you will be able to cultivate a healthy communication with them. You will be able to learn a lot of things, a lot of new things, and obviously, you will be able to clear out your own very doubts, right? So, every little step will increase your confidence. Every new person you meet in your daily life, you need a lot of confidence to talk to them. We can see that children studying in schools can easily talk with other people without any shyness. They can also address a group of people. This is because the education system is injecting confidence in them, directly or indirectly, and they are using it to enhance their personality and thoughts as well. Okay, so that was what education boosts confidence was about. Now, coming to this fourth subtopic, which is education gives opportunities and experiences. A good personality needs opportunities. Opportunities can be considered a way to show off your personality. A personality without an opportunity is of no use. Your personality has nothing to do if you have to just sit idle at your very homes. So, opportunities and experiences are interrelated. That is, opportunities give you experience, and experience gives you more opportunities. So, it is just like a cycle. Opportunities teach you many new things in this world, like, for example, the exposure, right? So, there are some things which can only be learned through experience and not through education, that we have realized in our daily lives. But then also, these experiences, right? These experiences come from opportunities given by education. So that is how this education is developing our personality and our thought processes. Now, coming to the fifth subtopic, education teaches how to behave. Now, talking about this topic, a good behavior, for example, a good behavior towards others is always appreciated and admired, right? As I've already mentioned earlier, a wrong behavior can spoil the wrong personality that you have created for many years. Like the example which I said was the board meeting example. So the code of conduct, that is, how to behave, is also taught by the education system. We are in our schools, for example, we are taught, like, in this occasion we are to behave like this, in that occasion we have to behave like that. So the education system is teaching us how to behave, which directly and indirectly impacts our personality and our thoughts as well as we gradually grow up. So education can teach you how to act when you are in a conference or at a party or in a classroom or wherever you are. So education can teach how to talk to other people. It can teach you what to speak and what not to speak, when to speak and when not to speak, how to speak and how not to speak. Now, in the modern education system, you are surrounded by many people around you, and you need to communicate with them some or the other time. So this can be considered as a practical test for your code of conduct. You can develop into a very good person if you can learn how to behave rightly at the right time, that is, at the right occasion. Now, coming to the sixth topic, education develops healthy habits. Now, talking about healthy habits, it can be associated with good manners as well. It includes like how to eat, how to walk, how to talk, and how many, like how you deal with other things as well. So these things are taught to students from the very beginning itself. These are the very first things taught to them while they join the schools. An important factor to remember is that in healthy habits, cleanliness within you and outside you is also being taught. right? Like, for example, in our schools, we were taught of the moral, right? Like cleanliness is next to godliness. So that is what came into my mind right now. So cleanliness is one among those first things which are taught in our schools. This is also taught in the education system itself, right? So schools often teach the students to keep their surroundings neat and clean, to keep them tidy. They also teach them to stay connected with each other, to stay physically neat, not just physically, but also mentally, in the sense of having good and positive thoughts as well. For example, like physically cleaning and to be neat is what in our schools is we are being taught of, like having a bath daily, cutting our nails, a regular haircut, and all part of cleanliness within you. That is what is generally taught to us in schools. So at some point in time, these things affect the personality of a person and his thoughts also gradually. Fine. Now, the next subtopic is the seventh topic. Education helps increase memory and thinking skills as well. Now, talking about memory and thinking skills, it can be considered as showstoppers of your brains. Like your thinking skills and memory, it can easily impress anyone, right? Excellent thinking skills will lead to healthy discussions and will give you an unforgettable personality. Sharp memory skills will let you remember previously met faces and facts. When you remember something which you have not encountered for a long time, it is quite impressive. It leaves a positive remark on your personality, right? So you and your personality will be praised at that time, all because of your memory and your thinking skills. But we must understand one thing, that memory and thinking skills are God gifted to some people, and it is not inculcated by everybody. It's not inbuilt in everybody. It's a God given gift. For example, I am not so good in my memory and thinking skills, I can be honest in that. But a few among us in our class will be good enough in their memory and thinking. Like, for example, if they just read one line or the other in the textbook, that is enough for them to produce it in their exams. But at the same time, other people like me need to learn and put a lot of hard work into those paragraphs, and only then will we be able to produce it in our exams. So what I wanted to say is that memory and thinking skills are God gifted to some people, and others get this skill from education gradually if they work on it. So education can sharpen these skills, which ultimately leads to the development of personality and thinking. And the last subtopic in this slide is education makes a person well disciplined. We all know that, right? It is through education that we are disciplined. So discipline is always overlooked, right? But it is a very important characteristic or a trait in personality development. Discipline is what differentiates between man and the wild also. Because obviously behaving wildly will show your non-serious attitude and an unwanted and unappreciated personality in the schools from the beginning till you pass out from your schools. So the students are taught to stay in the discipline, right? Discipline is a must-have. So in all professional areas, discipline is a must-have factor. If suppose you are undisciplined in the school, you will be kicked out of the place. We know that, or you will be punished. But on the other hand, if you will always be in discipline, everyone will praise your work, will look at you in a good way, and will accept you to be a nice person, right? Everyone will like you also. You will be likable, and no one will have any problems with you. That is what a good person wants. So, as an overall, what we can say about this role of education in personality development and thought process is that everybody wants a good personality, right? For example, we say like we look at these film actors and we say, wow, what a personality. I wish I had a personality like him. Look at him. Wow, look at him. Like that is the way how we admire and we say like his personality is nice. So we all need to have, or we all wish at some point of our lives, like we had a good personality. But it cannot be made and it cannot be acquired in an eyes blink. It cannot be done all of a sudden, right? It needs time, it needs patience, it needs hard work as well. We must work on it. So for example, it is just like a plant. You need to nourish it. You need to nourish it really well, and only then you will get the fruit. So similarly, you must need to nourish yourself in the sense physically and mentally. You need to put in positivity in your mind, soul, and heart. You need knowledge, you need experience and opportunities as well. You need to be disciplined. When you mix all these things, the magic portion of your personality will be developed and that will bloom. For acquiring all this, you need to get the education first, right? Education is what matters the first. Without education, it is next to impossible to get all these things. So education can give you almost everything in this world. A good personality is one of those things. The first things that will be given to you through education. So if you want to develop a good personality and a good thinking, you must take education seriously, and we must teach that education is to be dealt with in a serious mode. So education, as we all know, it is not a joke. If you take it lightly, you will develop a personality and thinking, which is next to a joke. Now, coming to the next slide, we will see on what personality is related to a teacher, based on a teacher. Fine. So it doesn't mean just the characteristics and appearance of a person which grows and develops as age proceeds. It needs constant self-direction towards sincerity, personal integrity, sociability, courtesy, morality, and precise wisdom. These are all what is wanted to develop a personality. So these characteristics should be a part of a teacher's life, right? So they are the necessary ingredients of a successful teacher. Now, what exactly is this personality development? Right? We'll see that. Now, enhancing and grooming one's outer and inner self, not just outer, but also the inner self, to bring about the positive change to one's life. It includes boosting one's confidence, improving communication and language speaking abilities, widening one's scope of knowledge, developing certain hobbies or skills, learning fine etiquettes and manners, adding style and grace to the way one looks. So this is all what personality is about. So why do we need to have this personality development? The managements, for example, in schools or in colleges or in universities, the managements emphasize on quality behavior, right? Quality behavior and focus on personality development of teachers, as the teachers are the only links, right? The connection of trust between the parents and the school, be it school or the college or universities, wherever it be. The teachers are the links of trust between parents and the institutions. Now, parents communicate with teachers to judge their kids' progress and activities in school. Usually, this is done during this parent-teachers meeting, I suppose. Now, the personality of a teacher doesn't just play a crucial role on the students in enhancing their growth and development, but it builds confidence among the parents as well. Next, we will see to the skills needed for development of personality and thinking of teachers. We all know these four subtopics. Communication skills. Most of us have this problem where we are not able to communicate For example, we will have a thought in our mind, but we are not able to communicate that through our words or through our gestures to the people, and where they are not able to understand what we wanted to say. Okay, so communication skill is what is really wanted. Then coming to trustworthiness, every teacher must be trustworthy, and only then will be approachable. Coming to the morals, a teacher must imbibe and should practice morals in their own lives, and only then will they be able to practice them and teach them to the students. And the teachers must be motivated, only then will they be able to motivate the students itself. So the next slide is about education's effect on thinking. It broadens one's thinking, where the individual is introduced to a new era of thought, which gives way to different dimensions of thinking. Positive and negative thoughts can emerge out of an individual due to the effect of education. Imparting of knowledge through means of education will help an individual to overcome all hurdles and obstacles that he or she will encounter in their lives because of pre-information. So that is what is dealt about education's effect on thinking. Now we'll see a small paragraph on the importance of education, just a small paragraph. First of all, education gives the ability to read and write to anyone. A good education is extremely essential for everyone to grow and succeed in life. Education increases self-confidence and assists in developing the personality of a person. Education plays a big role in our lives. We all know that. Next is a small tree of education which shows what the fruits of education are. Like, for example, makes people healthier, it raises crop yields, promotes girls and women's rights, saves children's lives, it increases homes, reduces poverty, boosts economic growth, fosters peace. So these are the fruits of education. Now, coming to the education's importance and benefits, I'm sorry, importance and benefits in our lives. Education's importance and benefits in our lives. Uh, the first one is about the knowledge and the awareness that is given to us. Education is the way to enlightenment. It builds up your knowledge base, widens your thought, and strengthens your power to explore the world. Education is an effective and must needed tool to be successful and the goals oriented and strategic in your life. So that is the way how it should be. Next, the success and goals accomplishment. An educated person is the goals oriented person with effective strategy and time management. Most of us lack this time management, and that is the reason why I've mentioned this time management over here. He or she knows how to prioritize goals and tasks for the achievement of maximum results for growth and development. So prioritizing of tasks and goals is very much important to achieve the goal. Next, the education builds our character. It strengthens the character by inculcating the values of patience, tolerance, justice, equality, and kindness. It thoroughly influences the behavior and orientation of a person for the betterment of life. So, this is how education develops the personality and the thinking of a person. It builds the character, right? Now, next, coming to the freedom and human dignity. Education makes the minds free. It unshackles the dogmas, the disbeliefs, and decaying ideologies from one's personality. In the sense, taking away, tossing out the negative impacts, the negative thoughts. It is a freedom in true sense with honor, dedication, and pride. Now, the last thing is about the collective progress and prosperity. There's this mistake in prosperity, I'm sorry. Yeah. Education is the way leading to wealth, progress, and prosperity. It ends financial disparities. There's a mistake in financial also. I'm sorry about that. It ends financial disparities, poverty, and pessimism as well. It is the only weapon of powerful and prideful developed nations of the world today. So that is how education impacts us. Now, related to thinking, critical thinking across the curriculum. How this education develops our thinking in the sense of having a critical thinking, thinking critically, evaluating, right, with the reasoning power, developing critical thinking skills, literacy, and philosophy in the primary classroom. For example, an object is given to the kids, and they are able to critically think what it is, how it is happening, and what is the situation given over there. That is how they are able to critically think regarding that topic. Next, a child over here we can see is she's made to think, and she's pondering upon what she learned through education. She's able to recollect, and by doing so, she develops her own memory power. Okay, here she's doing a critical evaluation. A critical evaluation is also another way of education's impact of thinking. Next, the process of thinking. We all know that there is a process of how we think, right? For example, first, the process is the step-by-step processes we have to create. Okay, then you have to evaluate, then you have to analyze, and then you have to apply, and then understand, and finally remember. So this is the process of thinking. Next, we'll see a wheel which is known as a critical thinking wheel. We'll start off with the implications and consequences for action. Okay, so that is where we start regarding the implications. Okay, how you're going to implicate it and the consequences of those action. Then comes the purpose of thinking, the questions at the issue, what questions would be addressed at that time. Then the key concepts, what can be the key concepts, the assumptions, the models, then the information and the measurements, then comes the inferences, the interpretations and the evidence, then your own point of view, and finally coming to the conclusion. These are all the elements of reasoning. Okay, that is how you always think also. Now, to conclude, so education has several ways to impact on one's thinking and personality too, which gives education its very own importance in the society. Hence, educated people are very much preferred every now and then, where they are counted upon due to their thinking skills and a personality too. So thank you all for your patience and support. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, Mr. Kiran Jacobra. Thank you so much. Students, any questions? Any doubts?
It was very clear. So thank you.
Next, I call upon another speaker, B.Ed first year Department of Commerce, Mrs. M. Punita, to come and share the one topic of today. Punita?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to all. It's me, Punita, of Commerce and Accountancy Department. It is an opportunity for me to share some facts about security in e-commerce. Let us move on to the topic, creating awareness about security in e-commerce. First of all, we should know what is e-commerce. Ma'am, is that visible?
Visible, ma?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Visible.
What is e-commerce? It is the buying and selling of goods and services through internet is known as e-commerce. that is electronic commerce or e-commerce. Now, we'll see some examples of e-commerce. Amazon, Flipkart, whatever we are using today, right? OLX, Quikr, etc. and etc. Then, types of e-commerce. Let us see some types of e-commerce with the examples. First is business to business, that is B2B. Steel.com is an example for B2B, as a steel industry exchange that creates an electronic market for steel producers and users. And next is business to consumer, B2C. For this, Amazon is a good example. Amazon is a general merchandiser that sells consumer products to retail consumer. Next one is mobile commerce, that is m-commerce, is the most popular one which we are using today. And it is very useful in this pandemic situation, right? Most of us, we used to buy groceries, clothes, foods through this m-commerce. And next one is Facebook commerce, that is F-commerce. This type of commerce is also in trend today. We can see all type of business ads for buying and selling facilities also provided in this F-commerce. And next one is C2C, consumer to consumer. eBay is also an example for C2C. It creates a market space where we can auction or sell goods directly to consumers. And next one is C2B, that is consumer to business. Fotolia is a good example for C2B. In this, C2B, when an individual sells his products and services to business. And next one is business to administration. This type of e-commerce also referred to as B2G. That is, this is purposely for government purpose. And when a business provides an online service for the government, generally through our website, taxes which go there, government can be filled online through third-party businesses such as TurboTax or H&R Blocks. And what is e-commerce security? It is the protection of assets from unauthorized access, use, alteration, or destruction, and it consists of protocol to safeguard people who engage in online buying and selling. And such basics are privacy, integrity, authentication, and non-repudiation. Privacy. Privacy includes preventing any activity that will lead to the sharing of customers' data with unauthorized third parties. It is necessary to have minimum activities, firewall, encryption, and other data protection. And next is integrity. It is the crucial concept of e-commerce security. It means that any information that customer have shared online remains unaltered. The principle states that online businesses utilizing the customer's information as given without changing anything. Altering any data will lose the confidence and security in online enterprises. Next is authentication. In this, both the seller and the buyer should be real. It deals with genuine item or services and delivers what it promises. It makes the seller feel secure about online transaction. And next is non-repudiation. Repudiation means deny. Non-repudiation is a legal principle that is not to deny their actions in a transaction. It gives e-commerce security in another layer. And dimensions of e-commerce security. As I told earlier, integrity, non-repudiation, authenticity, and confidentiality, and privacy and ability. Ability is a prevention against data delays or removal. And next, 5 essential security features of e-commerce security. Use HTTP. HTTP, this is the super easy check. At the top left corner of the URL field, you will either see a gray HTTP or green HTTP. HTTP is a protocol to transfer data over the web where data is created as it encrypts the data. Many customers now know about the security feature and people will avoid e-commerce sites that still use HTTP. Keeping HTTP can have a negative impact of your site before a hacker even has the chance to read the personal information. And HTTP should just be used on pages that collect data and other sensitive information. You don't have to include it on About Us page, etc. Next is SSL certification. This certification encrypts sensitive information to ensure that any data is unreadable to everyone other than the destination server. If the data is not protected by an SSL certificate, it could get stolen at any point during the chain of transferring the data. Next is monitor your site. If you constantly monitor your site, you're able to quickly identify any potential hacking activity and shut it out, thus preventing any loss of data and information. And next is scan for malware. A regular scanning your site of malware will pick up bad code in the website placed by the hackers. A provider such as Quanticity will perform a malware scan as frequently as you choose from every 6 months or monthly or even weekly to ensure your site is safe and secure. Next is ask for a CVV verification. That is CVV number. CVV is a card verification value. It is the number, is 3 or 4 digit code on the back of a credit or debit card. If the hacker has a CVV requirement will make it much more difficult to complete a fraudulent transaction. By utilizing the security measures mentioned above, you will not only make your site more safe and secure, but you will build a trust in your customers too. Then basic security issues. Distributed denial of services, DDoS attacks. A DDoS attack involves your website server flooded with a request from those of untrustable IP addresses. It is often reputation losing your customers' trust and confidence. Next is credit card fraud. The old classic credit card fraud remains the most common security threat facing e-commerce sites. Detecting that a fraudulent transaction has taken place, here are a free tail signs to help you spot an instance of CCF, that is credit card fraud. An order that sets to ship to an address other than the building address. A successful order proceeds by multiple unsuccessful ones. A sale of much higher value than you are used to receiving. A customer's IP address is not in the same location as the billing information on the other. Next is malware. Malware is any piece of software that been designed by cyber criminals with the intention of gaining access or causing damage to computer networks. Malware files can allow hackers to fake their identity, take control of your computer or networks, send malicious email or on behalf. And next is bad bots. On internet, there are good and bad bots. Bots are essentially automated programs designed to perform specific tasks on the web. Bad bots designed to cause your business harm. It behaves like a real user. E-skimming. E-skimming, it refers to hackers' method of stealing personal data such as credit card information from payment card process page on e-commerce sites. It is a significant security risk in e-commerce. To avoid this, This ensures your website is secure, remind customers to never enter their details on unverified websites. And the next slide, e-commerce security, e-commerce website security measures to cover you. Use multi-layer security. It is helpful to employ various security layers to fortify your security. A two-factor authentication is a good example. After login, the user will instantly receive a SMS or email for further action. And next is get secure server layer, that is SSL certificate. It is to encrypt sensitive data shared across the internet. The SSL certificate will come to you by making the data unreadable to unintended users. And next is use Solid Rock Firewall. Use effective e-commerce software and plugin to bar untrusted network and regulate the inflow and outflow of website traffic. And next is comply with PCI DSS requirements. Make it a routine to maintain the payment card industry data security standard to protect all the credit card data. And next is security tools in e-commerce. That is firewall security software and hardware, public key infrastructure, encryption, digital certificates, digital signature, biometrics, locks and bars. Digi certificate, Digi sign, locks, bars, etc. are the security tools which safeguard your site or data and information. And two-step verification. It is a process that involves two authentication methods performed one after the other to verify that someone or something requesting to access is who or what they are declared to be. You add an extra layer of security to your account. You sign in with something you know, that is your password, and something you have, a code or sent to you, your phone. And if you turn on two-step verification, you will get a security code to your email, phone, authentication app every time you sign in on a device that isn't trusted. Even if someone else finds your password, they will be stopped if they don't have access to your security info. And come to the conclusion, as I like to conclude with the e-commerce security solution that developing a robust firewall like Astra Security, WAF, to allow only real and trusted traffic to access via website. Prevent your site from malicious software by using tried and tested anti-malware like Astra Scanner. A step-by-step guide to harden e-commerce security. Always back up the site files and data. Secure your servers and admin dashboards. Payment gateway security. Use firewall and anti-malware solutions. Have a periodic security audit. And performance of a simplified system implementation is still under investigation. And the general frame can be customized to fit any particular service requirements, trust management for clients as well as the service providers, and role-based access control is there, and secure e-commerce framework for fixed and mobile users. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Very good presentation, Mrs. Punita. Thank you so much. Any questions, students? Any doubts? Okay. Thank you for creating such a brilliant and wonderful presentation for students. Your communication, compassion, and commitments in the whole program have been outstanding. You all did an amazing work. I want to thank all the participants of today's program. Moreover, we are grateful as students of this college to have all our professors and principals. The empowerment of our management has done wonders for the safety of us, and we really appreciate the sacrifice you do for our betterment. Thank you. Thank you, students.
Thank you,